Welcome to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Band from Ringside.
Tonight on the Band from Ringside podcast, we recap Survivor Series from a couple weeks ago. We know it was a while ago, but we weren't here. Hope you guys had a happy Thanksgiving. We're also going to be talking about Winter is Coming, which was a very newsworthy event. We have the WarGames predictions. We got Best of the Super Juniors. AJ Styles is the number one contender. Our friend of the show, Kurt Stallion, had a match on 205 Live and got attacked before NXT and mentioned on NXT. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Band from Ringside podcast. Really happy for that son of a bitch.
Right?
Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Band from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. Dead Hand Walking. And sitting to my left, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
Nice. Allow us to bow our heads as I read from the latest edition of the Band from Ringside podcast, volume 183, chapter 3, verse 14 of the Good Smart Saying, hashtag boo the heels. It is all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. Big shout out to the Chrisman family. Just found out about Ken's passing the other night. If there was a person that was a friend amongst friends that would literally stop anything he would be doing to help you out, this was this person, Ken. Heaven just got a little richer the other day by having Ken going up there, man. I miss you, brother. I love you. And big shout out to the Chrisman family.
R.I.P. And sitting out there in Edwardsville, Illinois, we have Two Beers. Zach Pullman, what's going on, Two Beers?
Not much. I feel like I should apologize for anything I said or even thought the last time we did the podcast.
Was it bad?
I don't know. I just barely remember it. I just know how messed up I was. So who knows what I said.
It wasn't that bad, Two Beers. But I'd say in comparison to even the hour episodes at good old Shock City, I think this was comparably tame to what those were.
No, you know what? You should feel like shit, but apology accepted.
In that case, R.I.P. Pat Patterson.
R.I.P. Pat Patterson. We are coming at you from overcast, cold South City, St. Louis, in my overcast and cold basement. You might hear my cat in the background. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, guys. Not a whole lot. I mean, we got Jinder Mahal's going to be showing up here in a little bit later. But before we get too far into it, Jason, tell us about F&B Eatery.
F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton and Marquette, home of the greatest smash burger you've never had. So in these last few days of 2020, let's slice you out a piece of heaven in this little pie that we call crappy 2020. Slide on over to F&B Eatery. Slide on into my DMs. Grab yourself a gift card. I've been sitting there holding on to them. I don't necessarily need them because, hell, F&B Eatery is 5 minutes away from the house now. So I'm trying to do you a solid. So do yourself a solid. Do the fam a solid. Hell, do the wifey a solid. Slide into the DMs, grab a gift card, then take your ass on over to F&B Eatery, telling it Band from Ringside sent you.
Be a nice Christmas gift. Happy holidays, everybody. Let's get to that. 3 counts.
1, 2, 3.
JCB, kick it off.
Obviously, we've been gone for a couple weeks, so first and foremost, I hope everybody had a safe and prosperous Thanksgiving, all that good shit. So we have to start back from where we left off. We're doing Survivor Series to kick off the 1 count. For me, the biggest takeaway for Survivor Series is how I think that this format just needs to be redone all the way around. Don't get me wrong. Roman and Drew was a solid match. I know people are screaming 5-star, 5-star. If you want to talk about that in the WWE bubble, knock yourself out. If you want to put that match versus any other organization, any other company, any other match, it's not a 5-star match, but we can delve into that as we go along. For me, like I said, Survivor Series just needs to be rehauled to where it used to be, where Raw used to be against Raw, and you can continue those storylines. SmackDown would be against SmackDown. You can continue those storylines. If the brand split that was legitimate and you really didn't see crossover, then I can understand the Raw versus SmackDown concept. But for me, and especially leading up to this Survivor Series, there was no true brand split. There was no real reason to care about Raw versus SmackDown unless you were a fan of, in this case, I know Bill's a huge Sami Zayn guy, so he might be invested in Sami versus Bobby Lashley. Obviously, there's Roman fans, there's Drew fans, so you're going to be invested in that. But the novelty for me of Survivor Series, at least the way it is now, is supposed to be Raw versus SmackDown. So you have these matches you wouldn't necessarily normally see. Asuka versus Sasha, we ran that into the ground up to this point. So, I mean, that match should have felt special. It just felt like, it's Asuka versus Sasha. Like I said, for me, the pay-per-view was good, not great. But for me, the biggest takeaway, especially with the Survivor Series elimination matches, is that we just need to get away from Raw versus SmackDown. If you want to do it, and which I think that's the whole reason to do it, is Survivor Series is about these elimination matches, then just have it inter-brand Survivor Series matches and just get away from Raw versus SmackDown, because like I said, at this point, it's silly to do, and the way they're doing it, the way they're executing it, makes it feel like it's a waste of time. Raw men should not be sweeping anything. Lana shouldn't be the sole survivor standing outside on the steps watching all mayhem break out, okay? Both of those matches were a legitimate waste of time where you had chances to put other people over and you did the same old boring-ass shit that you normally do. It takes away from Roman versus Drew, because now I'm looking back at this where I'm like, well, fuck, this match, Survivor... Profits and New Day could have went longer if you'd have just take away the men's match. Hell, if that was going to be a sweep, you could have did that and still had Jey Uso come out at the end and still affect the main event. So I mean, at that point, it kind of it bothers me to where now you're wasting time and you're doing things just to do it. Don't do things just to do it, man. Let's have a fucking accomplishment, a goal behind all this shit versus just throwing shit out on the wall to see stuff stick.
You're telling WWE not to do things just to do it. Got it. Okay. Zach, go ahead and shit on it.
You mean to tell me you're going to sit there with all sincerity and tell me that you don't enjoy, on both shows, men and women, arguing for weeks about who's going to be team captain, even though it doesn't matter, and you don't enjoy an arbitrary rivalry where at the end of it, nothing matters, and you're not going to tell me that you don't enjoy Raw winning every single year, even though it doesn't matter? You're going to tell me that right now.
Yeah, you got me, dog. All three guilty as
you're
charged.
100%. You're 100% right. The worst. It's dirt worst. I swear that 2 years ago, 2 years ago, this time of year is where WWE went from like moderately enjoyable, like sports entertainment, where it could be better, but you'd be nitpicking to the point where it's just like off a cliff. And I feel like the biggest, like the thing that did it was like Survivor Series for me. 2018 Survivor Series. It's just like every year the same gimmick happens, and it's like built up, but barely, and also like nothing matters. Like there's absolutely no stakes because you have champion versus champion. It's not like somebody's going home with both belts. The tag matches or elimination matches are a total waste of time. They're not used to get anybody over. Last year you're pinning Walter in like 30 seconds. You fly him from the UK. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. You got to pin him in 30 seconds. And, it's just like
Walter was in Survivor Series last year.
Exactly.
The NXT. That was when the NXT was part of it. So, yeah, so
I do not remember that.
He wasn't in there that long
at all.
Yeah. So it's just terrible, man. I'm not saying the show was like bad, because like there were like good parts of it. Like Jason said, the tag match, and Roman Drew was a good WWE match, but it was just like a total waste of time, man. Like even the Roman Drew match, I mean, that thing was 40 minutes, and
that was 40 minutes.
Maybe it was 40 minutes, like from like
bell
entrance to end or whatever.
No, not bell to bell, from entrances till the end of the show.
Okay, well, whatever, that's fine.
It was still like a fine match, and I wasn't like bored or anything, but the rest of the show was pretty boring, and it just seemed like they could have got it done. I don't know. Just had no excitement.
Just before you could start real
Sure.
quick, I have no problem with the champion versus champion part. Okay, that's cool. That can stay. The elimination match is where I have a problem with it, because now we're just doing it just to do it, and you don't need to have the Raw team sweeping. Okay, that's my biggest problem.
All you got to do is put a little stakes on it. Just say, if the Raw team wins, then they get to then those guys are all entered into a tournament to become the number one contender, or, there has to be some kind of, it just can't be bragging rights.
Hell, even it'd be like a pizza party, something.
Yeah, the Survivor Series, the Survivor Series lives on because of the brand Survivor Series. Because there might be some guy that hasn't watched it in a few years, and his wife's out of town. He's like, you know what? I'm going to buy the pay-per-view this weekend and watch Survivor Series, or something of that nature. I'll say this that's good about it. I watched it with Steve, and I didn't feel like my time was completely wasted sitting there in his garage, having some beers, playing some cards, and having Survivor Series on and watching it. The work rate was fine. I thought Street Profits versus New Day was really good. I don't remember who won, but I mean, who won?
Oh my God, are you serious?
They put over the young guys.
Okay, good.
And that was one of the better parts about it.
The other thing that I'll say this, and it can't get. Yeah, I know. Joey's calling me. I'm not going to answer. I can't say this enough, and we've said this forever about WWE, and it stands true even with Survivor Series in 2020, is that they put over all 5 guys on Raw, had Jey Uso make the last stand, and, he got a little bit of rub from looking kind of good fighting against all those 5 guys. But the only point of all 5 of those guys going over was to further the storyline that Roman Reigns is pissed off at Jey Uso. Therefore, once again, all roads lead to Roman. The Survivor Series 5-on-5 match was about Roman Reigns, and he wasn't in the match. That's really frustrating to me. Now, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre was good. They got out of it without, I expected some kind of shitty ending, or, a schmazzy ending, and there was a schmazzy ending. That's completely fine with me, because Roman shouldn't be going over Drew clean at this point. Sami Zayn versus Bobby Lashley, that's a heel versus heel match. I like watching those 2 guys wrestle, but come on. The women's match, the less there's said about it, the better. Apparently, I said 2 weeks ago that they wouldn't put that much thought into Lana. I do not remember saying that.
You said it.
I mean, it seems to me that they didn't put that much thought into Lana, though. Like, they just had her stand out on the fucking stairs, and then she was the last woman standing. Sasha Banks goes over Asuka. Whatever. It was another forgettable pay-per-view that I won't remember in a year from now.
No,
just like I don't remember the one from a year ago.
I won't say that. Roman versus Drew does stand out. Now, for those it might stand out more. Like I said, if you're a strict WWE guy and you live in the WWE bubble, this is probably your match of the year. For me, like I said, this was a match that didn't have a lot of build to it, but still was really good. You know what I'm saying? It made Drew come away looking strong, because you protected him by having the ref bump, and then the low blow, the interference from Jey Uso, yada yada yada. All that being said, I will agree with you upon.
Who's calling it 5 stars?
Dude, trust me, you'd be surprised when I see you on my Twitter timeline. It could be a little silly.
Jesus.
I'll just, like I said, Roman versus Drew is probably the standout match of this whole thing. New Day and Profits are probably second for me, and then from there, it's just a gumbo of just WWE sports entertainment, which is fine. That's neither here nor there, so I'm not going to completely shit on it on that sense. But like I said, for me, moving forward, if we're going to do Survivor Series, and let's just get away from the brand split, elimination matches.
Especially because there was a draft 2 weeks before. I mean, it's not like there's any brand. I mean, the bragging right. It's almost like they still have bragging rights around, which was the stupidest pay-per-view there could have been.
But at least it made sense. Now, I totally forgot they had the draft, coming up to this. So, it really didn't feel like it was, any brand loyalty, like they would want to scream and all that other nonsense. So, at the end of the day, Survivor Series, like you said, I did not feel like, for me personally, my time was wasted. There could have been there's always things that they could have done better, but I definitely sat through worse pay-per-views for sure.
Fair enough.
I think the setting that Bill described is the setting in like the optimum setting, right? Where it's on in the background, you have somebody to laugh at. Like, I was just sat there like at my house alone, away from my family because nobody else likes wrestling. And I spent like 4 hours away from my family for that.
Oh,
right?
don't do that.
Okay, see,
total like, because I was like, it's one of the big four. Like, I can't just like watch the recap or because like otherwise. So I mean, that kind of setting, absolutely, that's a lot of fun. Even somebody that doesn't spend a lot of time with WWE programming, I still felt obligated as a fan to watch this thing, right? Because it's one of the big four, so you have high expectations and.
Okay, see, there you go.
Is it one of the big four?
What?
It is. It's.
I mean, I know traditionally it's one of the big four, but it hasn't been one of the big four. I know what you're saying, but as being one of the big four, and I guess we do have to talk about Taker real fast before we get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of it being one of the big four, it's been a throwaway one for a long time. The other three that are traditionally part of the big four, Mania, SummerSlam, and the Rumble, those are never missable. This one's completely missable.
There's been some SummerSlams that you could probably just glide on by, but that's just me.
Well, there's been some ho-hum WrestleManias, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's no question about it.
But I mean, Survivor Series is completely skippable every year. The last one that I remember being good was when Orton and Bray Wyatt were the last two sole survivors.
Last year with NXT, I thought was absolutely fucking amazing.
Oh, I don't even remember it.
Adam Cole versus Pete Dunne? Shit. Give me that versus what the bullshit I saw a couple weeks ago. Yeah, motherfucker.
Yeah, that was a great match.
I don't remember that.
Oh, my God. Okay,
I'll tell you the truth. I can't tell those two guys apart.
Well, one of them's full on orange now,
right?
But
that's just a joke.
That was the weekend where Adam Cole worked all the shows.
Mm-hmm.
He worked he even worked like a SmackDown on Friday.
Oh yeah, they had this. That's right. Okay.
And then he worked TakeOver, and then he worked Survivor Series, and then he worked Raw. Like, it was like the Adam Cole weekend.
Oh, shit.
And,
yes. Okay. I remember that.
He's still making, NXT money.
Let's talk about Taker real fast, because there was a lot of speculation going into the weekend that maybe Taker would be the fifth guy. This was before SmackDown, but there was a lot of talk that maybe Taker would be the fifth SmackDown guy. It's kind of like a go home, and that would have been a ton more fun than just fucking Otis and doing what Taker did, which was, first of all, they made it look like they were going to the Broken Skull Ranch to do the pay-per-view, and then to do the podcast, and then Taker comes out. It took him an hour or two to get down to the ring. He cut a promo where he said about 30 words. That took another half hour. And then he left, which took another hour and a half or so. Which, ultimately is a fitting end to Taker's career.
God damn, you ain't shit. I mean, damn. Ain't shit.
Wait till we get to Steve Borden. What did you think about Taker's retirement, Zach?
I mean, it was just utterly missable. Like, it was like one of the draws for the pay-per-view, I'm sure, for a lot of people. And they just trot out like a whole bunch of people. Half of them are in gimmick, half of them aren't.
The Godwins were out there wearing fucking overalls.
I know, right? They're some of the only ones that had to go in full gear. And I just and then I think everybody's going to say something. I'm like, oh, that's cool. We'll get a few minutes here. These guys will say something. Maybe somebody will say something off the cuff. It'll be funny. And then no, it just goes to Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who says a couple things. And then Taker comes out and says a couple things, and then we went home, and it was completely missable and forgettable.
Jason?
I'll say this, and everybody kind of knows I'm not a huge Taker guy. It's not that I try to hide the fact that I'm not a Taker guy, but I just had to sit back and think about the
biggest Taker critic I've ever heard of or talked to.
I had to sit back.
And you were at Taker Michaels 2.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Maybe the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
Arguably so. I felt like I was the only one rooting for Shawn Michaels, which was like probably suicide at that point, but neither here nor there. It's not like it's 80,000 people could take me out or anything like that. I'll just say this. I get it, but when I said this when we were in Shock City, I won't believe Taker is done until you put him on the Hall of Fame podium and he's giving the Hall of Fame speech. Even then, I don't believe he's done, okay? They did it because it's the 30th year for Taker, anniversary. I get all that. But, I mean, this was as good as they were going to be able to do without fans, okay? So 2020 robs us of another memory, whether you like Taker or not, whether he takes 6 years to get to the ring or not. This would have been better suited in front of a live audience, okay? It didn't happen, so they did what they could. They trotted out, guys that crossed paths with Taker before. Okay, that's great. Was it good? Not so much. It just felt a little weird. It just felt like, hey, everybody's here, bring out Vince. Vince says his words. Taker says his things, and we all go home. It just felt sterile. That's the word I was trying to come up with. I was thinking about it while I was talking. Sterile is the word that comes up because it just didn't feel like this was something that was really planned, because you can't plan it, because this is supposed to be something that's been done in front of a live crowd, and what ends up happening is, okay, how can we best do this? And this is what the result of it. Was it good? No, not at all, man. No. It was hard to watch.
No, it wasn't good. I think that's good. Let's get to that. 2 counts.
1, 2, 3.
And before we get to the 2 count real fast, right now on my television, Kurt Stallion just went over Raul Mendoza. He just went over Raul Mendoza on 205 Live. And how long ago was Kurt Stallion sitting in this basement, right where I'm sitting, watching this television?
It was about a year ago because I started working my second job.
That was before he had gotten signed with WWE. Mm-hmm. And I just can't say how surreal it is to watch him on.
Has he gotten bigger?
I can't.
He looks like he put on some like muscle weight.
Hey, I'm sure he's gotten a little bigger. I just think it's so surreal to sit here and watch him on this TV. He watched this TV. He gave me a chop right where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't be happier for the guy.
No,
and
it's amazing.
if you haven't heard it, you can go back into our old feed. You know what? We might have to find that first one that we did. We might have to put up both those Kurt Stallion episodes.
I can find it. It's not. It can't be that hard.
And we can repost them, because the interview that he gave us at Shock City Studios
was really good.
He was very candid.
Yeah.
He told a lot of good stories, and he's just a very affable, fun guy to hang out with. He also came here and gave me a chop, and if you haven't listened to that podcast, it's also a lot of fun because he sat around with us.
He would kind of delved into WWE, and this is obviously before he was signed or whatever, so you can kind of see his thoughts. He wanted to be in WWE, and the fact that he's here now kind of blows my mind, and I'm a little mad because none of the baby faces came out to help him out while he's over here getting jumped.
But I love that he got jumped before NXT last night. They mentioned him on NXT last night. We're going to get to NXT.
They
Damian
jumped
Priest.
him. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
okay.
they jumped him WWE exclusive. They jumped him pre-show because it was supposed to be Leon Ruff and Kurt Stallion versus Legado. Okay, 2 beer. What's the 2 count?
2 count is going to be last night. Winter was not the only thing that was coming. It was quite the evening of AEW.
Christ.
I wanted to sell that shit, but I'm sorry. That was too goddamn funny.
It was the best of times. I waited. I work on Wednesdays now, so I don't get to watch until I get home. And Jason was actually watching kind of concurrently. I saw on Twitter. He was just a little bit behind me, but I wasn't tweeting too much because I didn't want any spoilers, so I didn't hop on Twitter at all. So like I'm watching the thing and like I'm enjoying it. You know, like the Diamond Battle Royale was fun. You know, I felt like each elimination kind of like played into a storyline that's going on in AEW, and I thought that was cool. That they kind of, it was like so dense with its like storytelling, even though like battle royals are typically kind of like throwaway matches, you feel like, but I feel like they were able to further a lot of angles. And so I'm having fun and I'm just like hanging out, you know, after work, and the show's like pretty good. I'm like, all right, guys, this is cool. Had some good matches, and then like, holy shit, like Sting comes out and Tony Schiavone loses his mind, and I lose my mind as a guy who, as a kid, went as Sting for 3 Halloweens. You only dress up for so many Halloweens. I was Sting for 3 of them. So, like, I'm stoked about this. So I get on Twitter.
Crow Sting?
Crow Sting every time, but one time was Wolfpack.
You're a nerd.
It was the red version. But, so anyway, I get on Twitter to share in my excitement, right? And the first thing I see, BFR Bill.
Oh, no.
Just shit. Oh, my God. I was so excited, and then
but
the thread that he put was really funny, and I totally laughed at it. It's worth checking out. It was very funny, but I was just like, oh, man. But then I kept scrolling, and there was like a whole bunch of other people who felt the same as me. But I mean, that was super unexpected. I mean, I can't think of a more unexpected like mark out moment. I remember like when the Hardys came out at WrestleMania, right? Even though we kind of thought maybe
that was awesome.
Like, yeah, this was like nothing. It was like there was no like thought process that Sting would be on the show, let alone signed to a multi-year full-time exclusive contract, right? Like, not that he's gonna be a full-time wrestler or anything, but the guy obviously is a draw because of just the buzz that's being generated. It's so cool to have him on TNT on a wrestling show. It just added a bunch of excitement. It felt like like a big Nitro moment, right? Where like things like mattered. It had gravity, and just like the whole aspect of like him and Darby Allin, which I'm sure Bill will show. Like he stared at everybody a long time on Darby Allin, who is the TNT champion. He's the face of TNT. Sting was the face of TNT. He was the face of WCW for years. So it's like old generation, new generation. He like takes a pause and looks at the painted half of Darby's face and almost kind of like imperceptibly nods in approval. Like, it was cool as shit. And you know that Cody's favorite wrestler as a kid was Sting. Like I mean, so many kids, because like Sting was like a good working version of the Ultimate Warrior. Like, you know. But anyway, there was also a title change, but I feel like we should probably talk about the Sting thing first. So.
Yeah, let's stick with Sting. I just want to say that after that thread I put, I knew where you were going with that, and we did not talk about it. I feel bad. I did tweet out, I don't feel like shitting on everybody, all you Sting marks, your happiness. I'm happy for all you guys, and that was unironic, and it was uncynical, and I am happy for all you guys.
You know what's funny is that that actually reads completely insincere, and I thought that you were just being completely sarcastic when you tweeted it.
I mean, I'm a victim of my own personality, I guess. Like when
you're like, Shirley, I'm happy for all your Sting marks out there.
No, I really am. Jason, go ahead. What do you think about Sting's big return? I guess Sting was winter, huh? Winter is coming. I mean, Sting is. I mean, was that the point?
I guess
that bird did look a little chilly.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said that this was the review. I didn't even think it was going to be a review. Honestly, I just thought this was the name they were giving the show for the week.
I just thought it was a clever name.
Yeah, okay, it sounds great. You know, it's great way to keep the focus of the wrestling world on AEW for the night. I'm okay with it. I mean, I think a lot of people are complaining because, well, I shouldn't say a lot of people. I think one of the biggest complaints I've seen so far is the fact that AEW has brought Sting in, and one of AEW, if you're an AEW fan, one of your biggest critics, one of my biggest complaints about WWE is how they're bringing in older talent to come in and work with the storylines, the angles, so on and so forth. For me, the reason why I think it's different, and this is just my own opinion about it, for WWE, when they brought in Goldberg, they brought in Goldberg to come in, win the title off of Kevin Owens, to then subsequently lose it to Brock Lesnar, and then Brock has his run. They're dependent on the older stars to make angles. Now, I was having an argument with this guy on Twitter about who does Roman Reigns lose to, and he's very emphatic that he should be losing to The Rock. I say no, just because that goes back to my whole point. Then you're dependent on The Rock. I don't give a fuck.
That's your taker argument.
I don't give a fuck if he's the most well-known person in the world. That does not help the WWE, because at some point, Rock's got to go away, and now you're stuck with a roster that you don't have any confidence in. You don't know if they can do anything or not. Okay? Same principle lies here. AEW has kind of built up your Darby Allins, your who else was in the ring at that point? Cody is Cody, so he's set. Dustin was Dustin.
Ricky Starks.
No, the heels were gone by this point. So when when Sting was walking in the circle,
were they? Okay.
Yeah, they were gone. Shit, I say it was all baby faces in the ring.
Dude, a heel does not stay in the ring whenever Crow Sting comes through the door or from the ceiling.
Yeah, if the NWO bounced, Team Taz was going 2 steps behind. They were long gone.
I'll tell you what. I was watching it last night. I was flipping between the two, and it was the Kings of NXT were cutting a promo at the same time that the match was going on, and it was a tag team match. And, I usually stick with matches, but I do like Pat McAfee so much, and I like Ricky Starks a lot, and I like Powerhouse Hobbs. I like Cody. Darby's there, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to Pat McAfee. And then when I flip back, Sting's in the ring, and I'm like, what the holy fuck? And Zach, I will say, I mean, I wasn't really sorry that I missed it, to be honest. I will say that I'm looking back through this thread, and this thread's really funny. I haven't thought about it today at all. I was just going through all my photos and trying to figure out how I could meme each one into Sting coming back. But, listen, I don't want to – obviously, I'm in the minority. I was on Twitter last night when it all happened, and everybody was going apeshit. That's fine. I want everybody to have a good time. And I was in St. Louis. I was at the show when Sting entered WWE, and it was tons of fun.
Survivor Series.
Was it Survivor Series?
Hell yeah. Dolph was the sole survivor. It was a straight-up fucking mark-out moment because the lights went the fuck out, and I'm like, okay, who's coming out? Who's coming out?
Oh, that's right.
And then you look over, you hear the music. I'm like, whose fucking music is this? And then you see, the spotlight go down, and here comes fucking Sting. I'm like, it's fucking Sting. Holy shit.
Was it me, you, Joey, and John or something? Anyway.
No.
But I was there, and listen, Sting completely missed me. I wasn't watching it when he was popular. At the very tail end of WCW, I remember being in high school when I didn't watch wrestling and making fun of Sting because he was just obviously The Crow, which was a movie that I thought that sucked when I saw it when I was 14. I know I was in the minority there too, certainly amongst 14-year-olds.
Oh shit!
But just give me a second to shit on Sting for a little bit, or as I like to call him, Steve Borrington. We always give Chris Jericho so much credit for staying new and staying fresh and keeping on evolving as he keeps going into his career. And Sting is literally a guy that has not evolved his character at all since 1995. We're talking 25 years of a guy that hasn't done anything, that's still wearing the same fucking makeup from a shit movie that only got popular because Bruce Lee's kid died while he was making it. Sorry, it's a great soundtrack. It's a shit ass movie. I don't get the love. His finishing move is a fucking splash. It's a splash. I don't.
His finishing moves, the Scorpion Deathlock.
Okay.
Or the
get him.
Scorpion Death Drop, which is the
Get him.
DDT.
Get him.
The Stinger Splash is a total transition move. It sets up for the Scorpion Deathlock.
Okay. I mean, what's the Scorpion Deathlock?
It's a sharpshooter.
Yes, it's a sharpshooter. And doesn't he have some kind of DDT or something?
Yeah, the inverted DDT is called the Scorpion Death Drop, otherwise known as the Slop Drop.
I don't like Sting. He's not a good promo. It's not a good character. His character has never changed. I don't want to watch AEW to see 61-year-old Sting still wearing the same fucking makeup. Come out not wearing the makeup. Come out and do something different than just fucking stare at everybody and walk away. Come out and do something to somebody. Come out and attack Darby Allin.
Why is he attacking the baby faces?
Because he's a fucking heel. Who the fuck cares, man? It's so fucking boring. That's not why I watch AEW, and that bores the fucking shit out of me.
Okay, all right, hang on. Okay, and I'll give you the Sting argument.
I'm not alone in this.
No,
I know.
No,
at least,
you're not.
At least Vice agrees.
Yeah, I'll talk to Vice today. That was an interesting conversation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes, we talk without you, Bill.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay,
That's
we're
nice
grown-ass men. That's what grown-ass men do. Okay? I give you guys the Sting argument. I totally get it. I don't want to see Sting long-term. I want to see where this initially goes, and then from there, you can start to, bring him in, bring him out. I don't expect him to be on the show on a week-to-week basis. To me, if he's like a Brock Lesnar, special guest star, you drop him in when need be, so be it. But I don't expect him to be on a week-to-week basis. If he is, then I don't expect it to be that long. The bottom line is, this is for eyes on product. And we'll talk about that later on when we talk about the title change. You might not like the way they're doing it, but I can promise you one thing. We're all going to be watching on Tuesday because of what happened yesterday.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, I mean, it gets eyes on the product. And, I think part of the reason you might be so down on it, not just because of your dislike for Sting, which is fine. I mean, big Sting fan here.
When you
see what you did him?
When you break it down, Zach and I have very different reasons that we like wrestlers. Or maybe it's just the face paint. I don't know.
You see what you did to him?
WWE has this thing that I feel like they conditioned the wrestling audience because they had 20 uninterrupted years, it's like this monolith. They've conditioned the wrestling audience in so many ways, and one way is they bring back these legends, like we've talked times, and they make them the focal point of their show. Whereas I think with AEW, they've brought back legends, but in doing so, they're in like managerial roles, they're in ancillary roles, and they're all working to put over younger talent, right?
Absolutely.
I don't see Sting doing anything differently. I see him. I mean, granted, his T-shirt. Sting, fastest selling T-shirt and pro wrestling tees ever, just right above that BFR 316 one.
Yeah,
right above it.
Find us on Pro Wrestling Tees, everybody.
Good job, guys.
He sold faster than anyone in pro wrestling tees history, which is bonkers. And right on the front of the shirt it says AEW. So like somebody wears that shirt to Quick Trip and they're like, Sting fan, AEW, what's that? They haven't watched in 20 years. Like, it's this wrestling show. It's on TNT Wednesday nights. Like, boom. Like, that's the whole reason this is a thing. And it's not to, like, put over Sting. It's to get eyes on the product, like Jason said, to put over this younger talent, get these guys over, establish them so that, these guys can ride off into the sunset and then they have a larger base. Because right now, the people that watch AEW really like it. If you don't, look at the Twitter timeline of people that don't even watch it and just shit all over it because they're Cornette fans or they just want to be contrarians or whatever.
Can you imagine being a Cornette fan?
Dude, they're out there, man.
I know.
They are out
it's
there.
Incredible.
but the people that watch the show enjoy it, and anybody that I've shown the show to, like if I'm at work or like whatever, and we throw it up on TV, like people enjoy the television show, and all they got to do is get people to just like tune in, and they're gonna like it, and they might stick around. But they're not gonna, unfortunately, do that with like. That's why they, the Mike Tyson thing, the Shaq thing. It's all about just getting these eyes on the product, and if it takes bringing back an older wrestler, I'm cool with it. Like whether I like that wrestler or not. Like if they would have brought back, like I can't even think of anybody that I just absolutely hated except Mark Miro, and he's not a draw. So
I can think of a guy I absolutely hate. Sting. Yeah.
Shit, dog.
He's heating up.
All right. Moving on. So if you think that was a polarizing decision, bringing back Sting, which just seems like a total slam dunk.
Yeah, it was not a polarizing decision. It was a slam dunk.
So,
no, you had to do it.
In our title match, which was the biggest title match in AEW history, and it was for free on a Wednesday night television program,
which I love. I love that they did that, man, because it really makes AEW unmissable.
Absolutely, and without getting into the show, NXT just gave up this week. They didn't even put up a fight. Like there was literally nothing on that show that was worth watching above like the AEW show. It was like sometimes they'll like throw together like an old WCW thing, like all right, well we'll do Great American Bash or like whatever. This week they're just like, yeah, just like you guys have this one, we're gonna do our WarGames thing. So, but anyway, they put this on every week, cutting the most amazing promos. Like, goddamn, like nearly choked me up whenever he did the wink to Pat Patterson and says only one thing left to do is to make him or to go out there and make him go banana, because Pat Patterson left the plurals off of everything because he's French Canadian and he just never said S's at the end of sentences. And he's talking about giants clashing with swords on top of a mountain, and I'm just like vibing hard, right? I'm so ready for this match. And then, they do the entrance, and like Kenny Omega's got this like ridiculous entrance, and I'm just popping so hard. And like Justin Roberts is like, he was born 1,690 miles northwest of North Carolina, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is amazing, and I'm just like so into it. And the match is cool. These guys are like actually wrestling, and they're both great wrestlers. And then they go outside and they're brawling. It's kind of more of a Moxley Suzuki like style match. And the whole story of the match is they have this gentleman's agreement, right? And so Moxley throws in the chairs, and Moxley's actually getting booed because he threw in the chairs and he's breaking this gentleman's agreement. And then they just have a good old fashioned like slap fight, like sitting on the chairs. So we're back to the gentleman's agreement. But then they do like this, like really, I think Bill would maybe call it cute, right? They get very like storytelling heavy, but also like there's a lot that happens in the next couple minutes where Moxley DDTs him on the concrete. They kind of do this like work shoot scenario where Kenny's injured and Don Callis is on commentary, and if you don't know, he's in charge of Impact Wrestling, so that's a little bit weird. And then he comes out and he's concerned with Kenny because he's known him for a long time, and they've established that on commentary, and their fans know that they're connected. Don Callis is the one who came up with the idea for Jericho versus Kenny Omega, which arguably changed the entire landscape of wrestling as we know it, modern wrestling especially. Argument for another time because we're focused on this match. But anyway, Callis is upset, grabs the microphone, tells the referee, hey, he's hurt, you need to stop the match. And it turns into a total schmoz where obviously Callis is in on it, hands the microphone to Kenny Omega. Omega busts Moxley busts him open. V-triggers out the ass. I mean, dude, just murders him with V-triggers. One-win angel, pins him, new champion. And then they run off into the night. And I'm so shocked by everything that's going on, but I'm just laughing my ass off because they do not stop running. And just they run from the stadium all the way out to the cars and the cameras following them. And then Don Callis says, we'll let you know on Tuesday. And Alex Marvez is like, Tuesday? He's like, Dynamite's on Wednesday. He's like, no, Marvez, Impact Wrestling, Tuesday night. Kenny will be there. And it's just chaos, right? And the show ends, and then Eddie Kingston is somehow screaming like over like a microphone that he wants Lance Archer, and the whole thing just felt like chaos. And you got Shivani and JR talking like it was like a screw job, and I'm just blown away. And I was like, obviously, I got too inebriated, and I'm going to go to bed tonight, and I'm going to wake up, and this is not going to be real at all.
I actually think that JR said that we just got jobbed. I think it's
I think it's a screw. We just got jobbed.
Either way,
yeah, like so. The reason I just went into detail with it is because it was like a complex match, complex storytelling. But at the end of the day, we now have this obvious working relationship between Impact and AEW. And like I said, if people think that bringing in things polarizing, this is the talk. Like, this is the most newsworthy aspect of the show, because this opens up so many doors, figuratively, literally, metaphorically. I don't know. We're going to have to see where it goes. This was a very incendiary program, and I feel like it's going to be like the ripple effects, the aftershocks of this are like noteworthy. Like, I'm excited now more than ever about AEW in the future. It's crazy.
Well, let's just say this. It was a very eventful hour of television. Before we get into the Impact stuff, let's talk about the match. Jason, what did you think about the match?
I thought the match was good. It felt more New Japan than anything else. It was literally like TBZ said. It felt like two different matches. A front part where, it was a feeling out process where kind of Kenny took the lead there. It spilled outside where Moxley kind of took over. And then obviously the turning point is where the doctor came in and started to check on Kenny. And I was sitting there and I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, something's up. This is a spot where something usually happens. So, my antenna was already up. Don Callis getting knocked down. Okay, I saw the mic in his hand, but the next thing you know, I look up and I see the mic in Kenny's hand. I'm like, what the fuck? So I rewound it and I'm like, oh, okay. So it makes sense. It works. But like Two Beers said, to me, the end is the biggest takeaway, because now he's like, we'll see you on Tuesday night. I'm like, Tuesday night? What the fuck? So that automatically, I'm like, what the? I'm already thinking Tuesday night's Impact, this doesn't even make sense. And then they confirm it. The match was good, but to me, the ending was the best part about it. You got Tony Schiavone, marking out a second time, God, son of a bitch, shit. They're audibly cursing on air. JR's freaking the fuck out. The match itself was good. To me, the ending, the post-match, the chaos, like Zach was saying, was even better, because now you have that sense of, okay, something just happened that shouldn't have been happening, and now we're trying to figure out what's going on next, and now we're going to watch Tuesday night to figure out what's going to happen from this point on. But like I said, to me, the match was really good. It felt like New Japan on an AEW stage.
Okay, so to me, the match was spectacular. I was way into it. I was hanging on every move. It did feel like there was two different matches. It did feel like there were movements to the matches. There were some callbacks to Okada, even from Ken. Yeah, I love the match. It was outstanding. I'm not the biggest fan of Moxley's in-ring work, but his character work is second to none, and
arguably wrestler of the year.
His character work in that match was as good as you can have it in any match. I liked it better than Kenny Omega and Ambrose's no holds barred, basically shit match. I prefer a Kenny Omega style match to a Dean Ambrose style, or to a John Moxley style match. Did I call him? Have I been calling him Dean Ambrose
from time to time?
Jesus. I'm that WWE Mark. I have a cousin named John Moxley. It's weird to call him John Moxley. I have a cousin whose name is John Moxley.
Right.
But
I bet he fucks.
He's got a kid, so I would have to assume he does. Actually, I'll send you a pic.
One time.
At least once. The thing where I was watching it live because I certainly wasn't watching Shotzi Blackheart versus Raquel Gonzalez, even though I watched it later and it was fine. the Impact thing is legitimately shocking. Like, that is a moment that, wrestling history is told in moments, right? There's Stone Cold stunning Vince McMahon for the first time. There is Stone Cold with the beer truck. There is Shane McMahon buying WCW out from under Vince McMahon, kayfabe style. There is The Rock versus
Hogan heel turn.
Hulk Hogan heel turn. We don't know, and I hate to sound like Jason here with let's just see how it plays out. But we got to see how it plays out. Because to me, this seems like it was AEW's biggest Dynamite of all time. Besides their first one. I mean, you can argue it, but I mean, there was a title change. Jon Moxley's been the title holder for 9 months. There was a title change. Sting came out. It was a big, big night. And then at the end of that night, when you have Kenny Omega, arguably the best wrestler in the world, and has been for 4 or 5 years, if not more,
right?
And you have him finally win the championship, solidifying his heel turn, and then you run out to the parking lot, and the guy that helped him win it says, tune in to Impact? I mean, I know that it's bonkers. It also kind of let the sour taste in my mouth because I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to fucking watch Impact.
I was just thinking that.
It's like, do you know how much wrestling I have to watch anyway for this fucking podcast? I do it for you guys.
Yes.
Not for Jason and Zach. I do it for you, the listener. And now I have to fucking watch Impact. And I've watched Impact over the last couple months, and they don't have a crowd at all. They're not outside, and it's the way that WWE and AEW looked back in April and May, which is not a fun way to watch it. They've both found ways to circumvent the pandemic, so to speak, with the Thunderdome and with a sparse crowd and with having other wrestlers around. Impact hasn't even tried to do that. That being said,
it's the same thing, like with ROH and stuff. Like some people just they're being safer than the other companies. So.
Sure, and I totally get that, and I'm not faulting Impact for that. The best case scenario here is that we know that we've had NWA wrestlers come into AEW and fight, and AEW seems to be an open company. The best case scenario is that Impact and AEW have decided to join forces and go against WWE together. They certainly have the talent to put up a fight. Do they have the talent and the wherewithal and the money behind them to become an actual competitor to WWE? Maybe not. I'm interested to see where it goes. But, man, after an exhilarating AEW main event between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, for the show to end with Don Callis telling me to watch Impact, it just feels like a fart in the wind, man. Like, it just does not. Are you rolling your eyes at me? Like, that's just not very exciting. Maybe I have a very different opinion of it than you guys do. Jason, go ahead, rebut if you're going to rebut.
Two Beer, you want this? You want me to start?
I mean, I'll just say real quick.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and go. Go ahead and go.
Just real fast.
No, take time.
I don't have those. I didn't watch TNA when it was terrible, and so I don't have a negative taste in my mouth about Impact. It's just a company. It's been around for a long time, which is kind of almost to its detriment, right? Because it's not new and fresh like AEW, but it's gone through a lot of evolutions and. There's good wrestling there, and I do watch it from time to time, and it definitely felt weird. But again, I just feel like it's WWE being so adamant to never open their doors to anybody for however long, and that these other federations, these smaller federations, can absolutely. They're stronger together than alone, right? So why not take the best of both worlds? And honestly, it almost helps Impact more than it helps AEW because AEW is a hotter product. But
absolutely.
Imagine if like together, right? They were able to like pool the star power, pool the resources, and they end up doing like the next AEW special Wednesday night show like beats Raw or something, which is like not incredibly far-fetched, like, right? Like if they get like next year Raw keeps declining or like stays static,
or if they decide to go on a Monday some night, or if they decide to have like a pay-per-view style show on a Monday night against Raw, that's TNA or not TNA, Impact and AEW against WWE. I mean, that's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
That's the most exciting thing about this. Despite my reservations and despite the not the low note, but that I was riding a high after Omega winning and then telling me to watch Impact just kind of brought it down a little bit. Despite that, I can see that there's no way they did this without a long-term plan. Kenny Omega is going to be on Impact next week. I have Access TV. I don't know if everybody else does. I actually have it. And, of course, I'm going to be watching Impact on Tuesday night. Not going to be happy about it. I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'm going to watch it. Jason, why are you shaking your head at me?
Multiple reasons. Let's just start with the biggest thing. I mean, this is what we've talked about, okay? We've always said we wanted the alternate to WWE.
We have it.
Okay. But then now why do we want to settle for this? Why not bring in Impact? My biggest argument with AEW lately is that they don't have a second show. Now, all of a sudden, it kind of feels like we're laying the groundwork for the possible second show.
Totally agree. I think that's what I was just saying, is that that's the best case scenario.
Okay. So, like Two Beers said, it ultimately helps Impact more because they're the show that nobody really watches. Some people watch it. I watch it every week. So, for me, that was the biggest thing where I'm like, wait a minute. So if we're doing this long term, I'm thinking like the tag team divisions is already off the chain to begin with. You throw Impact in, it's going to be even greater. The women's division on Impact, I think, is one of the better women's division, arguably. Take Stardom away from it. Anybody else, you could argue that the Impact women's division is better than anybody else's, name for name, WWE included. Now, if you take that women's division and the limited women that they use in AEW, you got some shit going. So I'm looking at it at the long-term prospects of what could be. What actually is now, like I said, we're going to end up watching. For me, I'm watching anyway. But for others, you're going to have to watch on Tuesday. And that's going to be good for business all around because everybody knows WWE ain't going anywhere. But if you put pressure on them to do better, this number might actually get over 1 million for Impact, which is probably unheard of for Impact on a Tuesday. Okay? If it's cracking 1 million, what's Raw doing nowadays? 1.7, 1.8, something like that, give or take. Okay. If they start doing 1 million, just dipping their toe in, this is going to be an issue. You don't want to go against Raw on Monday night. That's already been proven you can't do. But if you do it on a Tuesday, do a 1-2 punch Tuesday, Wednesday.
I would say it's proven that you can do it. Like WCW beat them for a while.
You don't want to keep doing that, Bill. That's trying to get the incumbent out the White House. You can try it if you want to, but it's going to be difficult to do.
Couple things here. And Zach, you can jump back in after this. When my brother was part owner of Soul Taco, right? And they were getting big. They talked to my late uncle, my godfather, and they said he owned 60, 70 Pizza Kings in Indiana. He owned a bunch. And Jacob asked him, what do you have any warnings? Like, what's the thing that we shouldn't do? And my Uncle Al said, don't expand too fast. You're going to think you have these 2-3 locations that are doing well. You're going to think you can do 10. AEW is just getting its foothold. It's only been around for a year. So are they in the spot right now to where they can start thinking that Axis Impact can grow them? Or is Axis Impact just going to stretch them a little thin? That's my concern. The second thing that I was going to say, I can't remember right now. So go ahead, Zach.
I would say, like, adding that extra, like, breadth with a D in the middle. I can't really pronounce it. But you know, there's a ton of talent that are working on Dark, and there's people that complain about how long Dark is, even though it's a YouTube show and you don't have to watch any of it if you don't want to.
Right.
But, like, you know, send some of those guys, like, you know, those young guys and stuff, like, they can wrestle on Access. You know, like, Anthem literally owns the channel that Impact is on, right? You know, they own the whole thing. They bought them a TV channel so that they could have it. You know, you don't have to be on Pop or like whatever, like figure out where to find it. But anyway, like, I think that I don't know that it's going to like stretch them thin. I think it is creative. I think interpromotional stuff is always interesting. You know, it's like Scott Hall showing up on WCW Nitro, right? Like, these kind of things just don't happen that often, especially between promotions that are in the same countries. Yeah, it's just super exciting. I don't think that it will stretch like resources or anything, but just look at the amount of money that WWE makes from their television. And if AEW is like not that far behind them, like in the demos and the ratings, then why aren't they making 10 times as much?
No, I'm not shitting on it. I'm cautiously optimistic.
No, I think dude, you should be cautiously optimistic. I'm still kind of tripping off of this move. Fucking Aleister Black and Velveteen Dream on NXT TakeOver. Was it 17 or 18? Yeah, I was going to say amazing fucking move. Anyway, I think like I said, to me the biggest point is that now we're talking about an opportunity where you have Impact, who's, I wouldn't even say they're struggling, but, you know, most fans don't watch Impact. At least that's my impression on it. They don't watch it week to week like I do. I mean, if you do, God bless you. If you don't, you know, I understand that too. But it's going to open up so many more opportunities. And like I said, to me, the biggest problem with it is guys like Brian Cage, Scorpio Sky, you know, Brody Lee when he comes back. You know, these guys are going to have to find some place to, you know, to do their thing, to have their storyline be told. And you can't do it on the 2-hour Dynamite. So I don't think they're stretching thin by any stretch of the imagination. This is the time to expand. Now, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, Dark had damn near 3-hour show of Dark, which is fine. I mean, you know, God bless you for it. If you got 3 hours of developmental to run out there and help get the light shine upon them, so be it. But that just says to me that there's the time that's out there that can be used in that scenario. So you can get people in there. I just think that the developmental Dark shouldn't ever change. It's perfect the way it is. If for whatever reason, just for the sake of argument, Impact becomes that second show, quote unquote, now all you're doing is just now everybody's gotten comfortable. You know what I'm saying? You don't have somebody in the middle row in a flight. You got somebody on the aisle and somebody on the window.
This is banned from ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new contender showing up to the podcast. Tender Mahal, what's going on, Tender?
How we doing, guys?
We fighting in this motherfucker tonight? Say, I will shake this bastard.
Tender, we're at the end of the AEW Dynamite discussion. Did you?
Oh, good. I'm glad he was here because I was filibustering, hoping that you would get here because I know you got a ton to say. By all means.
Filibustering, baby.
So go ahead and tell us what you think about the ending of AEW Dynamite last night with them announcing that Kenny Omega will be on Impact.
Pretty exciting, right? Like, I mean, it gives everyone a reason to watch Impact. Here's the thing. No one's going to... TNA has burned people so many times over the years that a lot of people have just been like, I ain't watching Impact. I don't care if it's the Good Brothers or whatever. So this is great because Impact's got one of the best, most underrated rosters in a long time, and this will give a lot of people a new opportunity to kind of see what they got going on. And also, you got Kenny Omega coming on, and let me tell you something: Cyrus, as a character, is incredible, and I'm so excited to see what he does and to see what he does with Kenny Omega.
So you think it's going to be Cyrus versus Kenny Omega on Impact?
No.
No.
Cyrus with Kenny Omega.
Oh, Cyrus with
Yeah.
Kenny Omega. Yeah.
AKA Don
I
Callis.
see him as like he's like the Bobby Heenan to Omega's Nick Bockwinkel. Right?
He's just so talented.
Ooh, you said Bobby Heenan, Nick Bockwell. Okay. Oh, okay. No. See, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's the possibilities. Just because somebody was saying, Rich Swann's in trouble because now Kenny Omega is coming over. No, Rich Swann is going to be perfectly okay because somehow, some way, their paths are going to cross. And if you know who Kenny Omega is and you never seen Rich
Paths
Swann,
are not necessarily going to cross.
they're world champions.
It ain't gonna cross. I agree.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's going.
we don't know what it's gonna look like.
I'm not saying they're going to wrestle. I'm saying backstage somehow Kenny Omega and Rich Swann are going to cross paths. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying a match is going to happen, okay? But you at least now know, if you're an AEW guy and you've never watched Impact before, you're going to make sure now that if we have you watching, this is the one chance that we can get you to watch next week.
I mean, that's fair enough.
You're probably going to make sure that Kenny Omega crosses paths with your champion, Rich Swann. That's all I'm saying.
Zach, are you going to be watching Impact next week?
I will be off on Tuesday, and I'll be watching it live, which is out of character. Even though I do enjoy it when I watch it, I just don't always devote the time to it.
I'm right there with you, man. I agree.
That's all I'm saying, okay? I'm the only person. We just brought another person in. That's 4 of us, and I'm the only person that watches Impact on the regular basis.
Yeah, we can say that for a lot of different type of wrestling programs.
Okay, so that's why I think I'm the most excited of all of us because I'm sitting here like literally salivating on the prospects of what could be moving forward. Impact, okay, I'll say it like this. Impact is comedy, and this is coming from the guy that doesn't like comedy in wrestling. It's funny enough to where now I still have to get my giggle in, and they still have good matches.
Man, I wish I could have just a drop of you saying "get your giggle in." Joey, before we move on to NXT, sorry you showed up a little late. Before we move on to NXT, what are your thoughts on Sting showing up to Dynamite?
Okay, so first and foremost, I am a Sting mark.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
He was my favorite wrestler as a kid. Why is he laughing?
I don't know.
You know why I'm laughing. No,
So
go ahead.
Zach-
Go ahead. He's your favorite wrestler as a kid. No,
Absolutely.
Tell your story, and I'll tell you why I'm laughing afterwards. Go ahead.
I think WWE completely screwed him over. They brought him in. He got beat. He had the injury.
The fact that they never had Undertaker versus Sting is such a waste.
I mean,
Like, so much money left on the table.
they made a shitty documentary, and I think Cody, who I trust Cody, I trust Tony Khan. They're going to bring him in, and they're going to make his last run as a wrestler because he's going to wrestle. Means something, and he's going to go out the right way. And here's the thing about Sting, man. Sting was always the anti-WWE guy. Him being in WWE was just weird. He is WCW, NWA, and
TNT.
TNA.
Thank you.
Ted Turner's guy.
Wouldn't it be funny if he was actually just there for Impact?
That's
Say,
hilarious.
I'm back. But that's what I'm saying.
Joker
More so to my point, okay? The possibilities endless. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just think, not to get long-winded, I think that they know that AEW, Cody Rhodes, Tony Khan, Young Bucks are going to know what to do with him and know how to utilize him and is smart.
I don't want to see him wrestle. He almost died last time he wrestled against Seth Rollins.
People almost die all the time. Yeah, whatever.
Wow. Holy shit. Are you talking about me having COVID?
I tell you what, I don't think he's going to be taking any buckle bombs in AEW, though. So.
No, he will not be. No, that was it
Can
was
we,
not Seth Rollins' finest hour.
Okay, but now can we start to get off Seth Rollins for ending, quote unquote, Sting's career? Like everybody, can we all agree that Sting at some point is going to wrestle again? No, I'm not saying that we were on that, but just the general consensus was some of the hate for Seth Rollins.
I feel like a lot of this.
I
feel like a lot of this podcast is us talking to each other, and then a lot of it is you talking to people that you argue with on Twitter that I have no idea who you're talking about.
Never mind.
Nobody. I don't know anybody that says that Seth Rollins ended Sting's career.
We haven't had this discussion before?
I mean, everyone kind of thought it was over after that. After he...
But no, did people blame Seth Rollins, or did they blame 59-year-old Sting? No, see, you're talking about Twitter people. And, Zach, have you ever thought that Seth Rollins ended Sting's career? Or did you thought it was just the shitty gimmick with the shitty in-ring work and the terrible
No. See, that's leading. That's leading the witness. Okay, just ask the question.
The look I'm giving Bill right now is just
That's what he was laughing about. Is because I'm a Sting hater.
Oh, I know you are. I knew that. I knew that when I walked in this basement.
I was about to say, look, don't ask the witness the question. Don't lead. Just ask the question.
But final thing I'll say about this is, I think that he's going to wrestle. It's going to be fine. Hopefully he gets vindicated. He has one last good match in him. I mean, no one thought Dustin Rhodes was going to come back and do what he did. And mind you, he's a few years younger.
Come on,
he's 51 years old.
That's 10 whole years younger. And when he was fighting in WWE against the Usos every week, running shit with Cody, that was 6 years ago. He was 45. That's way different than being 61. Way different. You hope Sting has one more good match? I'm here to tell you, brother. Spoiler alert, he doesn't.
God damn.
You know what? I can totally see him in like a 6-man situation. They did that with DDP not long ago, and that was totally fine.
Yep, they protected him.
Of course. Is that what he's coming back for? Is a 6-man tag team match?
I don't think so.
No, he's going to be there for years. He's going to be a manager. He's going to be an on-screen personality, and I can imagine that they do lead to an angle eventually where he does a 6-man and he doesn't take any bumps and he just hits somebody with the bat. You know, like that'll get some pay-per-view buys. You know, like you got to keep that one you keep that one in the chamber, man. Like,
an important thing to remember about AEW is that there are no rafters. It's open. He can't stand up there in the rafters.
Oh man!
Another thing to remember is that The Crow was a shitty movie.
So one more thing is there?
You said that was the last thing you were going to say.
I know, but I'm really excited about this. Is there a possibility of him being Darby Allin's manager?
Yes.
That's exactly what I thought it was. Like, especially when he did the big stare down, and you weren't here earlier, but I said, you know, it's the old face of TNT looking at the new face of TNT, and he like looks at like the painted side of his face, and
he did focus on the painted side of Darby Allin's face, which was, I'll admit, the coolest part about the whole thing.
Wow. Look at you.
I'll admit
that's
that.
Growth.
Yeah.
That's growth.
I can admit when I'm wrong. And
that's growth.
I'm not even wrong. It's two freaks looking at each other.
So Darby Allin, he does all these vignettes, right? He does all these films. And, like, apparently, like, I've heard interviews with Tony Khan.
He does films like 8mm films. I've seen that movie.
He sends them. Apparently, he sends Tony Khan shit like every week, and sometimes Tony Khan's like, "Okay, I like this, I'll put it on," and sometimes he's like, "This is fucking crazy, and there's no way I'm putting this on television." But apparently, he does this all the time, and I mean, I could see him being his manager. I could also see, like, you know, that Taker Boneyard match. You know, best match that Taker's done in like years and years and years. I mean, you put Sting in like a cinematic match. Like, I mean, that's another way to get around taking bumps and stuff is a cinematic match like that.
That doesn't appeal to me, but that I can see where you're coming from, and that is really smart, actually, because I didn't come at it from that angle at all. That makes sense to me. That doesn't appeal to me. I do like the idea of Sting being Darby Allin's manager.
Okay,
like the Tully Blanchard role, you know, that he's doing with Sean Spears. He's got to stop painting his face, though, right?
No.
He's 61 fucking years old. He's never changed it.
Okay, but, I mean, that is what it is. Hulk Hogan's gimmick is Hulk Hogan's gimmick. It's either that or it's Hollywood Hulk Hogan. He's had two gimmicks in his whole career. It is
He's Mr. America.
Stop it.
He's heating up.
No, stop it.
I think what he means is Hulk Hogan's gimmick is his mustache, and Hulk Hogan's not going to shave his mustache.
Okay, fair enough. You can go that route too. Okay,
I don't even see mustaches.
Here, this motherfucker here.
It's like that piece of clip-on hair he's got, where he clips on that skull it. He ain't got no hair anymore. He
That's a weave.
clips that skull it on.
I will agree with you that Sting versus Taker has been the one match that I had patiently waited for, especially when the cinematic matches have started to be the thing.
Let's also be honest. That match would have sucked.
If you made it cinematic, you could, your world is endless at that point. I'm not saying it would have been great, but you still have options to play with versus putting those two jokers in the ring and let them do it that way.
Like Taker goes to the tombstone, but then they just 69 for half an hour.
What the fuck, dude?
I'll say this about Taker, and I know we already talked about it, but I forgot to get this in. There's been no greater shift in a career than Taker kind of being undefeated and fighting all these stiffs into Taker all of a sudden having these 5-star matches at WrestleMania. And in his later years, I mean, he was in his 40s when that shit started happening. When he started having 5-star matches, Sting's never done that. Taker,
I disagree with that.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. You're the WCW guy on this one. Get in on this.
I guess I'm making up. I thought I had a straw man argument here, but I got Joey here. You think that fucking?
If you go back and you watch Sting versus Cactus Jack, Sting versus Vader, WCW,
Sting versus Ric Flair,
Sting versus Ric Flair, Sting versus DDP.
No, Sting versus
'99.
No, I was going to say Ric Flair. Let's not.
No, but that was in his prime, though.
Right.
I'm saying that Taker. Of course, Sting had great matches. I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is that Taker didn't turn to having great matches until he was like past his prime, and that's almost the most unbelievable thing about
that
Taker.
his most memorable matches were past his prime.
What are the best Taker matches? It's Michaels 1, Michaels 2.
Triple H.
Bad Blood.
Yeah.
Probably Bret Hart. Bret Hart was probably like his first, like, where he actually went out there and worked his butt off with Bret Hart.
Am I completely wrong, though, Zach, that, like, Taker didn't really start having great matches until in his 40s? He was in his 40s, right?
All I hear is that you just like late bloomers. You're just attracted to late bloomers. That's all.
You're starting to look pretty good to me, Zach. Okay, anything else we want to talk about with AEW, or are we moving on to NXT?
Joe, you just got here late. I was getting ready to say, I basically said all I wanted to say about AEW that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, what's the chick that Britt Baker fought last night? What's her name? The Russian.
Her name is Layla Hirsch.
There's no way that chick's 4'11". She's got to be like 4'5", 4'6", right?
But she's bad. I mean, like, she's I hate to use her catchphrase or whatever, but I mean, she's legit. I've seen her in Stardom. She's no joke. I'm really surprised nobody has picked her up, especially with AEW.
Oh, they picked her up. One more thing. Those running knees that Omega was doing on Moxley over and over again, that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
They're called V-triggers.
V-triggers.
It was amazing.
No, and that was the New Japan portion.
I love that the V trigger is something that Omega will pull out at the beginning of a match, in the middle of a match, at the end of a match. It's kind of like the Stinger Splash, except it looks like it hurts and it's cool.
Okay.
This motherfucker here.
You had to get one over on us.
Yeah, I mean, dude. Yeah, see, this is why I hate his ass, because he thinks he's like the real, like, this is his shit, and then I can just go ahead and say my shit, and then we gonna move to the next
This is
town.
my basement, motherfucker.
This is Man from Ringside.
Right?
This is Bill from Ringside.
Successfully buried Sting worse than Starrcade 97.
Dude, I can't even watch that match, anything about it. Like, I'm still burnt over that shit, man.
Joey's getting
Just
pissed.
the fact, that
bury.
I thought about it, it's my least favorite moment in like wrestling history. And just the fact that I thought about it, I'm going to drink like 7 beers right now.
Wait a minute,
Man.
Booker T got lost at WrestleMania over a racist fucking storyline. That's not worse.
No.
Don't forget about when Sting went over Jeff Hardy, when Jeff Hardy came into the ring drunk, and all Sting did was Scorpion Death drop him, and that was the end of the match. Because that's one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen on a pay-per-view. When Bischoff just goes whispers in Sting's ear and then goes whispers in Keith Hardy's ear, like, dude, you just gonna...
What did he say? He's like, you're fucking losing. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and everybody was booing after Sting, and Sting looked at the crowd. He goes, I know. I know. That's actually my favorite Sting moment. Hey, Zach, let's move on to NXT.
Oh, shit.
So this is like just building for WarGames, which is the least exciting build to WarGames in history, probably. I don't know. It wasn't like, it just seems like so uninspired. I did like the Undisputed Era vignette where they were dressed like Reservoir Dogs, and I did like Pat McAfee's promo a lot. So I mean, like that built the match pretty well, like that in last week. But I just feel like, you know, doing War Games just to do War Games is not. I don't know. I feel like you actually need like an actual like bigger feud to like get invested in this like long 45-minute match, especially on the women's side. It just seems like tacked on. I don't know. And then you got Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes in a strap match. I mean, like, why is that exciting? Why is that on a takeover? And I don't even know, like, is Finn Balor even wrestling anybody? He's the champion.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the one thing I was waiting for. And then, as far as I'm concerned, he's not even on the card.
Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. Like, you have one job. It's build up your pay-per-view. And, I mean, this was a completely missable show. Like, there was nothing on here worth sticking around for. I mean, I liked a couple of the segments. Timothy Thatcher and
I was about to
Tommaso
say,
Ciampa.
watching Ciampa, you know, basically clump over and shit. I was like, oh shit, we ain't seen Ciampa do no shit like that before. So I mean, I agree with you on that. I'm not going to say it was a missable show, but I mean, I know what we're doing, and everybody's doing it. We're comparing NXT to AEW. And last night, it's not the same. I mean, AEW came out swinging. It had a purpose to this shit, and like Bill said, this has probably been going on long before we've even thought about this. And all of a sudden, last night they plopped this shit out. NXT was what it was, but it was the normal NXT. But the problem with this one was it's a go home show to War Games, and at least on this podcast, we hold takeovers in high esteem. We have high expectations, and slowly but surely, those expectations, at least for me, have kind of gone down a notch or two to where now this feels like a normal pay-per-view weekend. I'm not looking forward to it. There's, maybe a match or two that I'm like, okay, yeah, that'll be great, but it's not anything that, like last night, I watched both shows back to back, and I watched AEW first. I literally had to stop, take a break, smoke a cigarette, and was like, holy shit, all this just happened, and then I had to watch NXT afterwards. This, to me, I get what you're saying, Two Beer, but I don't think, if we just look at it for its merits, I think NXT was good for what it was. It wasn't great. It needs to be better as a go-home show. But in comparison, it's not even close. AEW blew them out of the water last night.
It's not just a go-home show, though. It's a go-home show going against a pay-per-view. AEW...
No, I agree with you. Essentially, it was a pay-per-view.
We've talked about AEW putting a lot of stock into this particular show, and like Zach said, they knew what they were doing. They did an Undisputed Era package that was like 7 or 8 minutes long. They had Cameron Grimes go against a jobber. They knew that they were going against. I'll tell you what, something I've noticed as somebody that watches them both at the same time is that every time there's a big match opening or closing AEW, which is always men's matches because AEW's women's division is terrible, NXT counters with women's matches. And that's probably pretty smart because there's probably people that just want to watch women's matches. I mean,
no, that's fair.
There's enough of a variety of wrestling fans out there that happens. This was not a terrible show.
No.
Damian Priest and Ruff against whatchamacallits was good. I don't know. Imperium versus Grizzled Young Veterans. Can I put in Grizzly Young Veterans as a contender for the worst name for a tag team of all time, by the way? I might have said this before.
You have, it is what it is. I mean, you can rename all you want to. It's just good to see tag teams that are not, no disrespect, Fandango and Imperium week after week.
Can't believe you talk about Fandango like that. Thatcher Ciampa has a chance to be a great match on Sunday night. Joe, anything to add? We should probably talk about the Pat Patterson tribute to open up the show, Joey.
So I didn't see it, but
I was gonna say
but
that.
I'm a big Pat Patterson fan. I actually went and saw something to wrestle with in Chicago a few years ago, and Pat came out and talked for about 30, 40 minutes and sang "My Way" by Frank Sinatra, and it was just really cool to be around that guy. And I think when you think about people who have been, just had such an influence on wrestling for the past 35, 40 years, on so many matches, so many different finishes, and who every wrestler speaks of so highly when it comes to, planning out the matches and coming up with finishes. And, let's not forget about his in-ring work with, the Stooges. And, I mean, the guys did more for wrestling than almost anybody, minus maybe Vince McMahon or somebody like that. But it's a real loss. It really sucks. And I hope that they do, a really cool documentary for him. And, yeah.
Zach, thoughts about Pat Patterson?
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna totally double what Joey said. Super innovative, great worker in his day. Long list of accomplishments, and seemed like everybody thought super highly of him. Was just like a joy to be around, and I did get to meet him at Starrcade. That's what it's called, yeah, Starrcade. And
Oh yeah.
I was even more inebriated then than I was now when I shook his hand. But yeah, anyway, definitely a total bummer, and unfortunately he's been in bad health. And as Lance Archer says, everybody dies, but it's a bummer when it happens to Pat Patterson.
I want to speak to something that Zach said on Facebook because there are these, not to speak ill of the dead, because obviously Pat Patterson was an all-timer, and like Joey said, nobody's had more influence on wrestling in the last 40 years than him, except for maybe
around if it wasn't for him.
Except for maybe Vince. There were all these stories about him, I don't know if it was necessarily, I guess, molesting kids or trying to use sex to give guys a push later on, because he was openly gay. And Zach said something very interesting. Zach said, he was a homosexual, an openly gay dude in a business that was not openly gay at all. So a lot of these rumors might have circulated around people that just weren't down with that at all. Nothing's ever been proven. He never got arrested for anything. And I think really, not to speak, we're always supposed to believe victims and everything. But, I mean, really, the guy, as an openly gay man in a very tough business to be openly gay in, was a real pioneer, because Vince has known he was gay since the 70s. So, R.I.P. Pat Patterson. And
real quick, if I can just add something real quick there. Let's not forget, too, his partner, Louis, worked for the WWE for almost 20, 30 years as well. He was always around.
Louis Ganerco or
something like that.
Dorado
he
or
passed
something?
away 70 years ago.
Yep.
He was there all the time, so I think that, that even makes those claims even more false than they are.
Yeah, it just seems guys that were probably a little challenged by a guy coming on to them, which I've had guys come on to me. Like, I was at the bar a long time ago. A guy named Felix told me I was cute. I was like, yeah. And then... I
mean, there probably wasn't a more homophobic locker room than WWE in the 80s.
No shit.
I
was going to say, if you stop and think about that for 30 seconds, I mean, guys like fucking Hogan, Piper,
Rick Rude,
Kurt Hennig.
Yeah. was about to say it's.
I mean, good old boy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, for sure. And
But seriously, R.I.P. Pat Patterson.
R.I.P.
RIP, and like I said, Royal Rumble is probably my second favorite pay-per-view of them all. WrestleMania is obviously number one.
Number one's Royal Rumble for me every day. Every year.
It's probably the pay-per-view I look forward to the most every year.
And everybody out there listening, tell your friends to tune in to this episode of Band from Ringside for the most nuanced conversation about gay wrestlers that there could be. Anything else that we want to talk about? Ciampa, Thatcher. We also have predictions coming up, so we don't have to beat this into the ground. Anything else we want to talk about with NXT?
Sting, maybe again.
I'm
just kidding. I wanted to see.
Let's get to that 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so the 3 count. We don't do a whole lot talking about the main roster here, but the 3 count is we had a triple threat, the Bill Vegas special on Monday Night Raw between. It was a fun match between Matt Riddle, or just Riddle these days, Keith Lee, I think he's just Lee these days.
Stop.
And AJ Styles, I think his name's just Styles these days. But they had a triple threat match. AJ ends up going over, which is probably a little predictable. I would have been surprised if it would have been either of the other ones, although I like the rub that got them there. So we have AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre at TLC. Zach, does that tickle your fancy?
It's definitely the best case scenario, I feel like. I mean, it's fresh and it's going to be a great match. I think both those guys are going to go out there and try to work their asses off to give everybody a great performance. So, yeah, I mean, after seeing Drew Roman, I mean, like, Drew AJ doesn't even feel like a step down.
I think it's been a while since we've seen Drew fight a guy that was a whole lot smaller than him. What do you think, Jason?
I'll say this. The first time around when Drew won the title at WrestleMania, he beat Showed, obviously Lesnar, Orton, and so on and so on. It was getting to the point where, where do we go with Drew from this point on? Now that we reset the deck with the draft, you bring in AJ Styles. And AJ Styles is that guy that can usually make everybody look good. Drew doesn't need help to look good, so now it's almost like we have kind of a dream match going on, especially with the way Drew looked coming off of the Roman Reigns match. Obviously, I expect Drew to retain, but I think I have high expectations for this match just because AJ's AJ and Drew is on the short list, at least on my short list of Wrestler of the Year. So we got something going on that could easily make an instant classic, at least in the WWE world. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Looking forward to it, definitely. Joe, what do you think?
Well, sorry.
Yeah, you got to turn that bitch on.
Sorry. I love the triple threat match is one of the best matches I've seen on Raw in a long time. And I'll watch Keith Lee versus Riddle all day long. I mean, Keith Lee is just so damn impressive. Like, every time I see that guy throw a forearm or do anything, he's just different, man. He's got whatever it is, he's got it. And I'm all about Keith Lee becoming champion the next year. For me, Keith Lee's the guy, and I know I'm kind of going ahead here. Keith Lee's the guy that's going to win the Royal Rumble this year, or at least should win the Royal Rumble this year. And
I'd love that. That would be fantastic.
Ain't gonna happen.
Really?
So when it happens,
No, okay. Well, then if it's going to happen,
We'll come back to this.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, Lucha Chris can put me in quotes on that, and you can call me out on that.
Have AJ Styles and Keith Lee ever fought? That we can, or no, I'm sorry, AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre.
According to WWE, they have not. Now, from that point, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were both indie guys at the same time. So I want to say maybe in the indie world, and see, this is why I like the AEW Impact, because they won't make me think like this.
Coalition.
They'll actually, it's not a coalition yet, but you get what I'm going with.
Yeah.
They won't pretend like nothing outside their bubble doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? They'll talk about New Japan.
Sure.
They'll talk about, yada, yada, yada. As far as I'm concerned, Drew and AJ in the WWE world is a first-time thing. So that, to me, makes it exciting. Has it happened outside of WWE? I'm going to probably say, yeah, it's YouTube somewhere. We just got to dig it up.
I'm excited for the match. The match, I don't expect Drew to not go over. What's really got me liking Raw lately, and what has me liking SmackDown lately, is that they seem to be both devoted to telling long-term storylines in terms of the Jey Uso Roman Reigns thing. And we'll just make this an all main roster segment. I like the Sheamus McIntyre story that they're telling, because it's obvious that Sheamus is going to turn on McIntyre, or McIntyre could turn heel, I suppose, but they've subtly made Sheamus a babyface. His segment with Miz and Morrison on Raw was an A+. I loved Sheamus being out there. I loved Miz yelling at him and Sheamus being like, hey, you talk with your mouth, I talk with my hands. He's got the Peaky Blinders suspenders on. You know, he's ready to fight. I do like that they're building toward this Sheamus McIntyre match. And the longer it goes, the more that I hope it goes even longer. You know, like, really build them up as friends. And I like that they didn't rush it to Sheamus McIntyre at TLC. I like that they're at least going to give it one more pay-per-view, maybe two more pay-per-views, hopefully. I wouldn't care if they made it Sheamus McIntyre at WrestleMania, because I've always been a bigger Sheamus guy than the rest of you. What are your thoughts on Sheamus, Zach?
I mean, the Sheamus Drew thing is like fine. It adds a little bit of complexity to the story, and you know, I definitely don't mind it. And actually, I'm gonna have to pass it off because I have to take this phone call. It's very professional of me, but I got to do it.
Joey, what do you think about Sheamus McIntyre?
I'm a big Sheamus guy. I really enjoy Sheamus. I think he's, you know, people don't realize Sheamus is in his mid-40s, so he's nearing the end. But he's been in WWE for quite a while now, and I think he's kind of earned the respect of all the fans, any wrestling fan, and I look forward to seeing him work, no matter who it's with. But a guy like Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus and Drew McIntyre are going to tear the house down.
Yes,
and
as best as two big guys can, because they're two huge guys that can both go.
And you know, going back to Keith Lee, like, that's something that Vince McMahon's always been a big fan of, is having two big guys face off against each other.
Right.
You know, and now you got all these different big guys who can all actually work, as opposed to just like do a body slam and a chop. And,
Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, or Hogan Andre. You know,
right? Yeah. The thing that I like about Sheamus, the thing I've always liked about Sheamus, is that he's so comfortable on the mic as a babyface or a heel. The dude also has like 4 moves that can be finishers. He's got the brogue kick, he's got the white noise, he's got the cloverleaf, and I think there's another one that he does.
Well, he's also the most...
I mean, the white noise is basically the razor's edge.
Yeah, but he's like, his punches and his chops and that little thing he does when he brings him in and he punches him on the chest, does the forearms. He has the most believable shit, probably because it really fucking hurts.
Yes.
But every time he does those moves...
It either really hurts or doesn't hurt at all.
I think it really hurts.
Yeah, I do too.
Ask Daniel Bryan. He'll tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no shit. I was going to say...
But I'm a big fan of Sheamus too. And I remember... Now, this is just a personal anecdote, but I remember when Joey and I first discovered that we both like wrestling, he came into Jack Patrick's one night, and it was the bar that I work at, not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
And
we'll see you there tomorrow night.
I'm not working.
Never mind. We're not going to be there tomorrow.
But Joey came in, and I had just watched Monday Night Raw, and I go, who's this redheaded guy that has the title? Like, this crowd is not into it at all. And Joey goes, it's Sheamus. He's terrible. But that was 11 years ago. That's how long Sheamus has been in the WWE, which is pretty remarkable in his own right. Like, that's how long he's been good. And the Bar was a great tag team. The Bar was a great tag team.
Well, I think you got to remember, like, when they brought him in, like, yeah, he was like this badass, but he was also kind of a cartoony, like, dude. Like, he had the mohawk, and it wasn't there. And now he's just kind of a badass, and I love it.
He is a badass.
Yeah.
I'll just say this, and I kind of heard a little bit of what was happening upstairs. The reason why I think Sheamus has that longevity is sooner or later it comes back to the fact that his character always metamorphosizes into something else. You know, you were talking about Chris Jericho. Sheamus is nowhere near Chris Jericho, but it always feels like no matter what you threw to Sheamus, he always made it work. Even if you didn't like it, he made the shit work. I wasn't a huge Bar fan when they became a tag team. I wanted to see who won the best of 7. And then all of a sudden they became a tag team. They helped the tag team ranks, so on and so forth. Cesaro, I'm still waiting for his push, but another story for another time.
I don't think it's ever happened.
It's probably never going to happen. But I mean, ultimately, we're going to get Sheamus versus Drew. Right now, we're getting Drew versus AJ, which is a good bridge. Let's find out who wins the Royal Rumble, and then Sheamus is going to get put in before or after WrestleMania.
I like that they're building up this Sheamus Drew thing to actually be a grudge match, though. I'm along for this ride. Like, I believe it between these guys.
It didn't feel like a grudge match last week, and then on Monday, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to see where you can see the promo where after Sheamus turns on him, you can see why he did it. And that's always the promo. It's like, why, Sheamus, why? Well, then this is why I did it.
Can we all agree that Drew needs to stop coming out with that fucking sword, though?
No.
No.
Oh, I hate it.
No.
You guys love it.
Yeah, it's fine. I didn't say I love it. It's fine.
Two-Beard Pro are kind of on the sword coming out for Drew McIntyre.
Two-Beard's not here. He already hung up.
Oh, never mind. Shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a call to take. Not very professional.
You're a nerd.
So we should probably talk about SmackDown a little bit. The Roman Reigns Uso thing. Are they laying it on a little too heavy, a little too quick? Like, when you talk about long-term storytelling, to have Reigns getting this mad at Jey Uso this soon into their alliance, it almost seems like it's a little too soon. No, Jason?
I would say this, and this is the great part about heel characters, especially in this case Roman Reigns, and kind of peeking forward to what's getting ready to happen. Heel characters are disillusional. Okay, you think it's either, I see it like A, and it's really A minus. Okay, Jey Uso did what a henchman in Jey Uso's position is supposed to do. You're the champ. I'm supposed to come down. I'm supposed to, create a little havoc. Here's a super kick, and then you can do all the rest of this shit. All I want in return is a little props. So on Friday night, Jey Uso is, basically building up Roman Reigns. He was the hype man and shit. Dare I say the Flavor Flav of this Joker. And the next thing you know, here comes Roman coming out and basically was like, no, you didn't do what I asked you to do. What did I ask you to do? Sit your ass over here and shut the fuck up. And that to me was the kind of the takeaway from it, was that ultimately Jey Uso is going to be, and this is what I kind of wanted, Jey Uso is going to be in a scenario of what can we really do? Who is the person that's going to help us get over and stop helping me getting shit on at the end of the day? We're going to see where this goes, but I had no problem with it.
Do you have a problem with Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns at TLC?
Oh, no. I'm more interested in where the verbal goes at this point.
No, it's great. It's good promos, good wrestling. I'm all about it. Kevin, the sad part is, though, who's going to win.
Yeah, he's getting fed to him.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Jay comes in and, turns against Roman Reigns. Again, that would be too soon.
Too soon, I agree.
Looks like Bianca Belair is getting a little bit of a push because Bayley is going to fight her. You don't like that? You have a problem with that? You have a problem with Bianca Belair against Bayley?
It's the
Let's
show.
just see how it plays
out. It's the show me, man. I was about to say, come on, look.
Big Missourian motherfucker.
Big E was the guy that should have been in the Otis spot. Thank God he wasn't, upon retrospect. But, I mean, come on.
Looks like Big E's going to be facing Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental.
No, I was going to say this is probably going to be a Bill Vegas special when it all is said and done.
Big E's the perfect guy to take the Intercontinental belt off of Sami Zayn, though.
And Daniel Bryan is the perfect guy to have all eyes on this. They're not just going to keep throwing Daniel Bryan's name out there for no reason. This is going to be a triple threat. Now, Big E comes out and wins it after that. That's great. But I think going in, this is probably a triple threat.
Joseph.
I think that Big E is kind of always going to be in that upper mid card status.
See?
And I
See?
just don't think.
You can't see him ever winning.
No.
I mean, I just completely disagree.
I mean, I hope that I'm wrong, because I think.
But we said the same thing about Kofi, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we said the same thing about. I remember saying the same thing about Edge way back when in 2003, 2004. You were like, "How are you ever going to break these guys up?" And then all of a sudden, Edge ends up having one of the best singles career of the WWE in the last 20 years, right?
I just think he's too cartoony. I don't know.
I would like to see him go heel, or I would like to see him take it a little bit more serious. Just like, same thing with Cameron Grimes. Like, I love Cameron Grimes. I wouldn't like a little bit more of a sadistic edge, no pun intended, to Cameron Grimes. But, like, Cameron Grimes is hilarious to me, and he can also really work.
And that's the problem. I think two parts, and I'll go Joey first. I agree with Joey totally on this one, where you have a real good opportunity to make a difference where I'm trying to think of who I'm. Okay, let me go Cameron Grimes first. Cameron Grimes is good, but he's now funny, and there's the biggest problem.
It's not his fault he's funny.
But what did Dean?
Kurt Angle was funny.
But then they put Dean Ambrose is where I want to go with it. But Kurt Angle was
John
funny.
Moxley?
No, I'm going Dean Ambrose. Kurt Angle was funny, but it still came back to where it focused on the wrestling and building him up. And
Just
making him
like
as a champion.
Edge and Christian as a tag team, they were funny, but they were sadistic. They also won the first two TLCs. They had the belts forever, right?
Right. I'm just saying it's two different animals on this one. Just on the Cameron Grimes, you want to throw Edge and Christian on this, same thing. Their curse is being funny, and that's not necessarily a good thing in WWE, because and like Dean Ambrose said, look at Dean Ambrose. Once they trigger you as funny, you're pigeonholed as the funny guy, and they're going to put you as the funny person. It's not that difficult to think about all the guys that have funny personalities, or they try to make funny, whatever the case may be. It's still the same thing. Don't act like it's beyond the realm of possibility. It's not.
It's not beyond the realm of possibility. The thing about Dean Ambrose is that that's a very anecdotal. That only happened to Dean Ambrose. It's so weird that it happened to him. I listened to the podcast that had Dean Ambrose talking about that, and I get what he meant. But that did not happen to Kurt Angle, who was funny. And he was not pigeonholed as a funny guy. He was funny, and then he won a bunch of titles. Edge and Christian were funny. They were certainly, well, I mean, Bubba and Devon, they were funny too. They won shit. Now, listen, that's back in the Attitude Era. I get it. I get that it's different than it is now. But Dean Ambrose being pigeonholed as funny, the problem with that is that Dean Ambrose was never actually funny. Right. He was just crazy. And they went with the lunatic fringe thing, and Vince, obviously, after listening to Dean Ambrose talk about it, John Moxley talk about it, Vince got way too far away from it. He just did not get it at all. He knew that he was a main eventer, but thought that he was a main eventer that had to dress like Bane for some reason. And now we're seeing what John Moxley can do without doing it. What do you think, Joe?
We're still talking about Big E?
And that's my point, though.
Something like that, yeah.
No, my God.
I mean, I guess we're talking about can a main eventer be funny?
Does funny equal money? Is what you're trying to say?
Steve Austin was funny.
But here's the thing.
The funniest, actually.
I'm going to argue.
Go ahead, Joe.
So in Kurt Angle's case, it's like, who's Kurt Angle? He's a fucking Olympic gold medalist who's a badass. But he's also really charismatic and really funny. Who's Edge? Edge is the fucking ladder match king, the TLC king. Basically what I'm trying to say is they before they were hilarious and funny and they had this tough Edge gimmick. They had something else to go with the funny thing. When you don't really have anything to go with, like, oh, he's just funny and he's goofy and that's who he is, it definitely pigeonholes you for the long term, I think.
But it never used to happen. I feel like the older that Vince gets, because we're only talking about WWE now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
The older that Vince gets, the more he sees a guy like Chad Gable, and instead of seeing like a smaller Kurt Angle who can work, but who can also have a little bit of personality. I mean, Kurt Angle, of course, had tons of personality. But Chad Gable, he's like, we'll call him Shorty G. We'll just call him Shorty G. And it's like, that's completely missing the point.
That's kind of my point. I mean, I think this is what me and Bo were saying, that we're arguing about. We're making the same points, but we're arguing about it two different ways.
Oh, you guys are talking about the hilarious comedian Sting?
Shout out to Bo. I miss you, buddy.
That funny motherfucker Sting.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say we're talking about Sting. And in this scenario, I think it's the same thing. It's Vince. It's going to be hard to tell Vince that his formula is wrong when it's been working for 2+ decades. And it's made me billions and trillions of dollars.
I'll never step away from what CM Punk said in 2011 at the Pipe Bomb promo. This man makes money in spite of himself. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
He's heating up.
So at that point, God bless him. I'm not mad at anybody, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I'm going to keep watching, but it's one. I wonder when is it going to be time to have Vince kind of step away? Are you
saying you want to kill him?
No, I'm not. I hope I'm old enough to see.
Do you want to murder Vince?
No, I hope
Calm
I'm
down,
old
Jimmy
enough to
Snuka.
see. Well, yeah, if I'm
That'd
trying
be a
to do
funny
some
movie
Jimmy
idea.
Snuka shit,
Like a bunch of
Nails could be the ringleader.
This is Banned from Ringside.
We're back.
No, they don't know any difference.
Time for some predictions. We lost Jinder Mahal. We lost Zach, but Jason and I are here. Jason and I, the basis of the entire podcast.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
The guys that have been here from the very beginning.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I was getting ready to say there's more than
The only
us.
reason the podcast is here is because me and you argue about wrestling.
Don't do that, man. You came up with the idea of, I'm the voice of the biggest voice of the fucking
We
podcast.
definitely love Zach to death. I mean, Joey's fine, I guess.
Stop.
But
Come on, man. They ain't
so
here to defend
we have some
themselves.
predictions to get through. Okay, so let's start off with Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher in a singles match, just a regular old match.
Decent build. I'll go first. This has got to be Timothy Thatcher, I would like to think. I mean, as much as he's been the chicken shit heel, I mean, he choked the shit out of Ciampa, I mean, with the quickness to the point where it kind of looked real, Ciampa played it off real nice and sold it very well. I think round one at least goes to Ciampa. I'm sorry, goes to the Thatcher. Ciampa gets round two, and then we'll have a tiebreaker at some point. But for me, at least round one should go to Timothy Thatcher.
I can't see any reason why Ciampa would go over here. That would bury Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher is an up-and-comer in NXT. He's a guy that can really go. Him versus Ciampa is definitely a match I want to see. Get some time, give him 15 minutes, and I want to see that match. I am also going to go Timothy Thatcher. Next up, we have in a strap match, Cameron Grimes versus Dexter Loomis. Jason just made the jerk off motion.
No, you ain't supposed to say that.
No, I mean, it's my basement.
Right.
So
I'll go first again. I love me some Cameron Grimes. I really do.
He's really good.
I think he's an amazing.
I also like Dexter
heel.
Loomis.
I'm not a Dexter Loomis fan.
He's a guy that knows his character.
Yeah, I was about to say I know my character too. I don't play up to that either. I'm going to take Dexter Loomis regardless, just for the fact that I think Dexter Loomis needs this more. I don't think that Cameron Grimes needs it nearly as much. I think Cameron Grimes can lose this and still be the North American champion. I think Dexter Loomis needs a build for whatever reason, because his character is just so non-defined. It's here, it's there. I fight with this person. I align myself with that person. It's never been defined who Dexter Loomis is. Cameron Grimes is who he is. He's going to the moon, and you might as well take the ride with him. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm going to have to take Dexter Loomis.
Wait, so you said that Cameron Grimes is going to the moon?
Yeah, because that's his catchphrase.
But you're taking Dexter Loomis.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Cameron Grimes. Dexter Loomis has dominated.
You don't have to be contrarian to be contrarian.
I'm not. I wrote it down before I even wrote yours down.
Okay.
I wrote down Cameron Grimes.
Okay.
Cameron Grimes has to get over Dexter Loomis. There's a bigger future in WWE for Cameron Grimes than there is for Dexter Loomis.
Agreed.
I believe that completely. Cameron Grimes has been owned during this entire feud.
Agreed.
Which is why I'm going to take Cameron Grimes.
That's okay. See, you're going with logic. See, that's different than actually,
WWE.
Okay, that's different than making the right prediction.
So we got the old Bill Vegas specialty, AKA special. We got a triple threat that not only looks good on paper, but feels good in your heart.
Yeah, I'm starting to come around on it.
They've been the best. It's been the best part of NXT for the last month. We have Johnny Gargano.
Are we going that far? The whole month? God damn.
I mean, we haven't seen each other in 2 weeks. Then we had 2 weeks talking about it beforehand. Okay. We have Leon Ruff versus Johnny Gargano versus Damian Priest. And I'll go first here.
Okay.
So we're supposed to go from the least to most. I'm going to take Damian Priest as the least to win. I'll take Johnny Gargano as the second, and I'm going to take Ruff to retain.
Okay.
It's just what I feel in my heart.
No, like I tell my tables all the time, it's your gut, You don't need to tell me what you'd want to eat. Just, what does your gut tell you, I'm going to go at least number one with you on Damian Priest. I think there is more for Damian Priest moving forward. This is his stepping stone to bigger and better things in NXT. I think he's there to maybe not eat the pin, but to facilitate part one from part two. Now, from part one to part two, who gets there? There's two ghost face characters running around now. I didn't think we talked about that on the NXT recap, but there's two ghost faces running around. That's a lot for Leon Ruff to overcome. So I'm going to take Leon Ruff at number two. And so, obviously, by elimination process, I'm taking Johnny Gargano to regain the NXT North American Championship by major fuckery. Ghost faces are ghost faces. I just can't get past that. One was bad enough. Now you got two at the end of the segment. There's some shit going on.
You know what used to happen, and this is part of what we were talking about in terms of takeovers kind of losing out on quality a little bit, is that we used to talk about takeovers. They were pure. It was going to be one-on-one. There was very little fuckery that used to happen. And this is the main eventization of NXT takeovers, because now you do have to think about those ghost faces running around, or the scream masks, whatever you want to call them. Ghostface to me is the Ghostface Killer, but I mean, I'm obviously the.
No, you ain't the minority on this. Which I say we agree.
But
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
I totally get it. You're going China Gargano. I can't be mad at that. Next up, we have Team Shotzi, which is Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai, which is a murderer's row.
See,
you know, when you were talking earlier about
Survivor Series, okay.
No.
Okay,
When you were talking earlier about Impact Women's Division being the best in the world on paper, we're talking about Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai all on one team against Candice LeRae, Toni Storm, and that's not even counting Asuka and Bayley and Sasha Banks.
No. See,
you said that Impact Wrestling had the best women's division in the world.
And
that's wrong. Say it.
Go ahead and finish. No, go ahead and finish.
No, that's the end. That you're wrong.
You're bringing Asuka and Bayley in from the main roster. So if we're going to make this argument, then let's make the argument. So if we're going to do a 4-on-4, I would put up Taya Valkyrie, Jordan Grace, Rosemary. You can throw in a fourth at your choice, where if it's Havoc, Nevaeh. I'm sure I'm missing somebody else, but I mean, like I've said, if you want to play the numbers versus the numbers, or name versus name,
I'm playing WWE versus Impact.
Okay, I'll argue Deonna Purrazzo. I'm sorry, I forgot the champion, Tennille Dashwood, that was in NXT. Like I said, if you want to argue the fact of name versus name, who's the bigger names, it's WWE. If you want to go with talent versus talent, I will argue that Impact is right there with everybody else, regardless of its NXT or of its main roster, especially its main roster. Main roster is basically Asuka, Bayley, Sasha, Charlotte, and then fill in the blank from that point. If you want to go NXT,
that's pretty good.
Okay,
Nikki Cross.
Stop. You got the big four, and that's who NXT. Or I'm sorry, that's who WWE is. NXT is the deeper roster, so that to me is more comparable to what Impact is, because now you have a deeper Impact roster, where now they're doing their own. Impact is doing their NXT Tag Team Championship tournament. So I mean, it's not like Impact has bad talent. It's talent that maybe Bill Vega doesn't know. But if you want to put it comparable, shit, I'll put that comparable against NXT. Any day, twice on Sunday. Now
Cold-blooded.
Now that said, what was the fucking question?
Who are you taking? Team Shotzi? I mean, basically the baby faces versus the heels.
I'm going to take the heels on this one. I like the fact that Toni Storm turned heel. I think that was a big thing. That was an NXT UK angle before the world changed. That should have happened there. It's happening now. And ultimately, in my world of worlds, I would like to see Toni Storm beat Io Shirai to set up their championship match. I'm going to take the heels. There's more for the heels to gain than the baby faces to gain. Shotzi Blackheart coming out in the tank is the only thing that I could think of that the baby face can gain out of this. Everything can start to really roll around. Ember Moon is the baby face. Io can go back and chase the title. Rhea Ripley. Yeah, I'm taking the heels on this one.
So, what we have here... Oh, Rebus.
Don't be mad because the dog is chasing the...
Can't get mad at a dog for being a dog.
No shit.
So...
Poor Reeves.
Oh, yeah, I feel real bad for the dog.
You should.
All she does is sleep all day. She gets to go on runs, and she eats for free. She's good.
No, she ain't that good. You about to say, you saw how she looked at you. You were like, go upstairs. She's like, what'd I do?
Ember Moo's been on the main roster. She's Teflon. Rhea Ripley is a total star. She's Teflon. Io Shirai, total star. Shotzi Blackheart, whatever.
She's the next big star.
Basically, what I'm agreeing with you is saying that the heels have a lot more to gain from this. Toni Storm has a lot more to gain from this. I, too, am taking the heels in this. Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Toni Storm. And finally, last but not least, the match that I think everybody is looking forward to. I'm looking forward to it.
On this card. I mean, whatever.
I'm looking forward to it. We have the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish versus the Kings of NXT, Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Danny Burch, and Oni Lorcan. I will go first. I think that there is no way.
Oh, shit.
No way that the Undisputed Era.
Same guy that said that there's no way that Lana wouldn't have a major role moving forward. Just let's preface this.
Well, do you think she's going to have a major role?
Well, I mean, she's basically centered with Asuka, who's the champion, and with Nia Jax and Shayna, who are the tag team champions. So there's all the major championships.
Let me ask you this.
In the Lana angle.
Let me ask you this about that. If we're talking about main roster stuff, where's Raw Underground?
All bullshit aside, at least from what I read, is the fact that COVID has basically kind of claimed Raw Underground because there were people that were apparently getting infected, and
it's the same thing as, what are you talking about, COVID with Raw Underground? It's just wrestling. They're all doing the same goddamn thing. They're still doing pay-per-views. What do you mean COVID?
Look, okay, I'm just going off.
And you're laughing at me being wrong about Lana. No, go ahead and make your pick.
Hey, you're wrong about Lana because clearly, a week afterwards, 2 weeks afterwards, that storyline is still going on.
You mother.
Sorry, I'm right. I'm sorry, I'm right.
I'm sorry I fast forward through the shit.
Make the pick.
So are you taking Undisputed Era?
They are making it real easy for me not to take them. They've set it up to where, they haven't lost, blah, blah, blah. I'll do it. Shit, fuck it. I'll take Kings of NXT. I mean, once again, this is a scenario where we have to look past.
What do you mean, fuck it, you'll take Kings of NXT? That's who I took.
I don't care who you take.
Yeah, I know, but I'm asking you. I'm saying there's no way that the Kings of NXT don't go over here, and you're like, this is the same guy that said there's no way that Lana.
Oh no, like I said, preface this by saying, take your pick with a grain of salt. This is the same dude that said that Lana wouldn't even be around 2 weeks after.
I just said they wouldn't put that much thought into Lana, and obviously they didn't.
They have.
They sat her on the steps. Bill, okay. It was easier.
Bill, first things first. Let's get to the chase.
You guys know I'm right.
No,
the listener knows that I'm right.
You're wrong. First things first, I will agree with your pick. I'm taking the Kings of NXT just because for long-term booking, it makes fucking sense. Mm-hmm. Now, that said, you are dead-ass wrong about Lana. You basically called her out and said that she would have nothing to do with this fucking match.
Oh, I don't have any problem with Lana. I mean, I just...
What?
I don't have any problem with Lana. I just didn't think that they would...
So let's admit that you're wrong on that.
I've been wrong.
Okay.
I've been wrong before.
Thank you.
I'm taking the chop from WWE superstar Kurt Stallion.
Nice.
I have taken the chop. Okay. And you were standing here watching.
We got it on video,
We have it on video. Okay, hold on a second.
This is Banned from Ringside.
I'll give you 2 minutes to talk about Best of Super Juniors, our Battle of the Super Juniors, and the World Tag Team in New Japan.
We'll just go quick. There is a just a log jam on the top of both sides. This is the last week of both sides of the Best of Super Juniors and World Tag League. I had Show picked going in. He's in the mix. I have GOD winning on the World Tag League side. They're in the mix. To me, it's not as exciting as Wrestle Kingdom is going to be, but it is something to watch, especially if you're not really getting into, especially what WWE is throwing out. You're not a big AEW guy. Here's an alternative. Don't like Impact? Here's New Japan for you. Catch the last of the Best of Super Juniors World Tag League. That'll lead us into the first of the year where Wrestle Kingdom comes around and all the good shit's going down. Well, I could say more. You said 2 minutes. I mean, any other time you say, go ahead and filibuster. You gave me 2 minutes. Here's 2 minutes. Shit. I kind of timed myself on that one. What the fuck? I mean, I could talk about it more if you want to.
That wasn't even 2 minutes. Hey, we got some birthdays, everybody. We have Victor from the Ascension. You remember that motherfucker? He's 40. Good for you, Victor. Do what you got to do out there. We have Miss Tessmacher is 36. Hiromu Takahashi this week is 31. Larry Zbyszko is 67. Dynamite Kid, R.I.P. is 62. Rick Rude, R.I.P. is 62 on the same day, I think.
What?
Sonny is 48. John Moxley.
Alive and clowning. Alive and clowning once again.
PWI's number one is 35.
Is he the number one wrestler right now?
I mean, not for my money, but I mean, in terms of PWI, yeah, he is. I mean, he was champ for 9 months.
Okay, so let's not, because obviously the briefs are coming up. Go ahead and finish, and then I'll ask the question.
What are you asking?
Is Moxley the best wrestler right now?
No.
Okay.
No. Is he your best wrestler right now?
Roman Reigns is doing the damn thing. I wish that there was more shit talking in the Drew match, but I mean, even when Moxley was Moxley, Roman Reigns has kind of captured my attention.
Well, I had an interesting conversation with my brother-in-law the other night where we were talking about where the Shield is right now. Rollins, Moxley, and Reigns. If you were starting a wrestling company right now, who would you start it with?
Fuck. A month ago, it had been Slam Dunk Moxley. It's not Slam Dunk anymore. Probably Roman Reigns.
I think mine's Rollins. ACH is 33. ACH, who we had a long conversation with in this basement about Triple H being racist with his shirt. What was his name?
Jordan Miles.
Jordan Miles. Jordan S. Miles. Smiles. Slick is 63. He's still going, right?
I think so.
Yeah, he's still alive.
He's still alive.
Go Slick, man. He's fun. He was at Raw 1000. Michael Cole is
why do you
52.
Bring that up?
Oh, because he missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, no
Michael
shit.
Cole is 52. Enzo Amore is 34, and you can't teach that.
No shit.
Kurt Angle, my favorite of all time. My favorite of all time, Kurt Angle, is 52. Hey, everybody.
Stumbling down the stretch. Well, we made it home.
That's what we always do. We always stumble down the stretch. We appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. We know there's tons of podcasts to listen to for Tinder Mahal,
Check.
for Vice,
Check.
for Two Beer Zach Pullman,
Check.
for F&B Eatery,
Check.
for friend of the show, Kurt Stallion. If you guys haven't watched that 205 live match with Kurt Stallion against Raul Mendoza, please watch it. For Jason Cornelius Bell, I am
bitches.
Bill Vagian. Everybody
Check.
boo the heel.